packet. Basically what I do is I create a packet on my computer, I send it to the name server. When I send it, I have the victim's IP as the source in that packet so that the victim DNS server, the recursive name server, sends its answer to the victim. Improper IP prefix filtering on BGP sessions, about hijacking, about redirection, are also things of network hygiene you need to be aware of and make sure that you're properly filtering valid IP prefixes, that you're not allowing hijacking to take place, or about redirection. Why do we care about these things? Each of us as network operators should care that our neighbor is also being responsible and practicing good network hygiene, just as they wish you would do the same. Brushing your teeth every day helps with the dentist visits, none or fewer cavities. Keeping your network clean means fewer issues to resolve when there's a really big problem. Also about trust. Other network operators will trust your network more. But it's not just network operators, it's also your customers, right? I'm sure all of us in this room can think of at least 2 or 3 network operators or organizations that we don't trust that well, that are pretty kind of dirty. And so we're very skeptical. We don't really want to work with them. Maybe we have to, but that trust factor is pretty low, right? We don't have the confidence that if we were to report a problem to them, that they would timely fix it. Well, our customers know this as well. And our customers want to work with network operators that have a good, clean, trustworthy network. When I had my ISP, I had a large number of customers that absolutely would not ever leave us because they trusted us to run a good, solid, clean network. In nearly 20 years of running an ISP, none of my customers had ransomware. It's a pretty bold statement. I think a lot of it has to do with we did a lot of things to help mitigate and prevent the initial problems that lead up, or the initial attack or recon that leads up to a ransomware type of an attack. We did proper DNS filtering where we prevented malicious and rogue domains from ever being resolved. IP addresses that we knew were malicious, we made sure that our customers couldn't send traffic to those well-known malicious IP addresses. And it was an active process. We had to work on it every day. But we also kept a very clean network. And by having that clean network, you can see increasing revenue and a stability of revenue where customers will stay with you longer because your network is valuable. They trust you. That trust has value. Let's switch for a second and talk about bogans. What are bogans? Traditional bogans, or Martians as they're sometimes been called, are private IP addresses or special use addresses that have been reserved by the IAM, Internet Assigned Numbers Authority. These are IPs that you may know, like 192.168/16 or 10.0.0.0/8. Those are RFC 1918 private IPs. There are also other special use IPs out there that are used for certain function or for documenting in a manuscript, in a book, in a training class, etc. None of those type of special use addresses should ever be in a public-facing global IP routing table, nor should they be reachable via the public internet, right? Your router to the outside world, to your transit provider, should not be forwarding packets on your transit provider or to your transit provider with a destination or even a source that's a private IP. In addition to those traditional bogons or Martians, there are also what we call full bogons, which contain the traditional prefixes, but also contain IP space allocated to the authorized regional registries, but that have not been necessarily assigned or allocated to a downstream customer or LIR. So sometimes when a registry reclaims an address block, it will sit on that address block for a little bit of time, and then they will reallocate it out to whoever is next in the list based on their needs and other criteria. In that period of time that the addresses are not being used on the internet, they shouldn't be routable on the internet either. Now, malicious actors know that these addresses are in reserve or they're being held. And so there's no attribution that can happen. You can't come and say, oh, well, we know Billy Bob malicious hackers is behind this IP. Because the IP is not registered to anybody, right? So malicious actors will sometimes use these IP blocks to do their deeds, dastardly deeds, as I would say, and commit their cybercrime activity, because they know there's really no traceback to them. And they'll do that by convincing an ISP to announce their prefix, or that, oh, we were just assigned this prefix. The RIR is getting ready to update. We should have an update soon, but we really need to get our network up and running. Besides, we just given you a bunch of money, so please route our prefix for us. And unless you have a good process where you validate and verify before you announce, you may very well start announcing those prefixes. Well, if that's the case, and your neighbor does that, you want to make sure that your network can't send any traffic to those reserved prefixes. And that's where the Bogon service, the Bogon process comes into play. We have the ability to, in real time, announce those prefixes via BGP to your router in such a way that your router will then be able to drop traffic going to those Bogon IPs. And we have a 30, 45 minute talk with just nothing about the Bogon. Happy to answer more questions about it. But take a look at our link here if you want to learn more, if you want to sign up about Bogon. The fundamental takeaway here is that Bogon, by filtering Bogons in your network, you are preventing packets using IP addresses that should not be at this time on the public internet. Here's a list of Martian and special use address space for both V4 and V6. We also have Bogon autonomous system numbers. Similar to prefixes, there are AS numbers that are reserved for specific conditions, right? It's a Bogon if it's reserved for special use by an RFC. If it's not part of a block that's been allocated to an RIR, Regional Internet Registry, by INI, and it's not been assigned to a local internet registry by that RIR. If you want to learn a little bit more about Bogon ASs, take a look at this great presentation over at manners.org about routing security terms, Bogons, and Martian. Here's a list of some of the reserved AS numbers that are out there, right? So AS0, AS2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? AS 64,496 through 64,511. They're reserved for documentation and examples. 6512 through 65,534 are reserved for private and so forth. None of these ASs should be in a publicly accessible routing table or in a publicly accessible AS path. Right. Bogons, as I mentioned earlier, can be used for malicious activity. They can be used for DDoS. They aren't traceable, right? They can be used and injected into the global routing table so that within a certain region, TCP would even work for them. Bogons, ASs can be used for route hijack and route leaks. So you want to establish in your network configuration the appropriate filtering to make sure this kind of traffic doesn't come into your network. Team Company recently partnered with an organization called Code BGP to look at their BGP view. Using Code BGP's unique global monitoring tool, we were able to see hundreds to thousands of announcements of bogon IPs and ASs in the global routing table. Actual bogon IPs, these are IPs that are reserved for special use or have not been allocated by a regional registry. We're actually seeing them in the global BGP routing table. They should not be there, folks. AS numbers that are being used to provide transit to other networks, those AS numbers are not in any on our database. They're not even reserved. There's no entry for certain ASs that we found in the system. Right? Data at regional registries sometimes is not up to date or is missing. And so I would encourage regional registries to make sure that they have current and up-to-date information in their data sets. Criminals love this stuff because it makes it harder to track them. Right? We've got more research going on with these bogons showing up in the global routing tables, and as we develop more information,
we'll have some more reporting and presentations coming out. Prefix filtering, RPKI. Another thing that we can do to help with network hygiene. ISPs should validate their external facing route filters. In other words, the filters that you have facing the outside world, you should make sure that the only prefixes that can come through those filters are valid prefixes. These are not bogons. These are prefixes that are correct and true. Make sure that your Internet Route Registry datasets are up to date and correct. Make sure that what you are announcing to the world is in fact valid and correct. One of the things I recommend to folks is to maybe take a small MikroTik router, set that up to be a pretend BGP peer, and see what you're exporting by looking at the routing table that you see on that MikroTik. Doesn't have to be very powerful because it's not really going to be moving any traffic. It's just receiving routes so that you can actually see what is going through your filters and to the outside world. You must filter your downstream BGP partners and peers. So if you're providing connectivity to an organization that runs BGP, you need to filter their prefixes coming into you. You need to verify and validate that they are authorized for those prefixes when they come into you, right? Yes, it can be time intensive, but you need to do it. And this isn't something you just do once. Every time you add a BGP peer, you need to verify and validate your filters. When they make a route prefix update, they get a new network block and they say, hey, please advertise this block. You need to make sure that you are validating and verifying it. RIR should make sure that AS and IP records are up to date. RPKI. By using RPKI, you are signing your routes and saying, we are the legitimate holder of this route. This will help your neighbors know that these are really your prefixes. APNIC, RIPE, LATNIC, AFRINIC, and all have good documented hosting processes on how they can be helping you with signing your prefixes. Start using RPKI to validate routes you receive from others. Maybe only start with peering and IXs first, and then move onwards to transit providers. By preventing source spoof packets from leaving your network, you are helping yourself and the person sitting to the left or right of you in preventing a DDoS, right? If your network is now sending out source spoof packets, then your network is not participating in an amplification type DDoS type attack. If we did not have source spoof packets a huge amount of the DDoS problem we face today would evaporate. It would just simply go away. So please, become an internet hero. Stop source-spoofed packets from leaving your network. Actively check and remove public-facing services that can be used for or abused for DDoS. Things like recursive name servers, NTP, chargen, etc. Money, 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 we all love money. Cost of running a network is far more than running just the routers and the switches, the data center, the transit pipes, the HVAC, power, and the people. You have a cost when you acquire customers, customer acquisition cost. You have a cost when the customer leaves your service. You have a cost when in the middle of the night, you have to wake up your network engineering folks to solve a problem that could have been solved with good network hygiene. Right? Proper and good network hygiene will reduce your operational costs. It will enhance your network. It will bring better value and more trust, not only to your staff, but to your customers and to the community. Business improves by changing one or two things on your balance sheet, right? You can either increase income at the top of your balance sheet or decrease expenses at the bottom of your balance sheet, and that will yield more profit. With good network hygiene, I believe you're going to not only increase revenue, but you're also going to, at the same time, decrease cost, which is going to yield a much better gross profit in your business. And I talk about the money stuff. I know we're a bunch of networking geeks here, and this is a networking conference. But we need to also understand that there is a value to the business by making the investment to have good network hygiene. You are going to improve your business's ability to be a profitable and continuing growing success. So when you talk to your management, when you talk to your ownership, and they ask you, well, why do we need to do this? You have good reasons to help support enhancement of the business. Not just because it's a cool geek thing to do. It also brings in better revenue for the business, right? I mean, when you go to a restaurant and the restaurant has a review says it's great food, people are going to show up. If you go look at the review for a restaurant and it says that it is dirty and messy and not clean, then you probably aren't going to go. They are in fact selling. The one that says, hey, we have a great clean restaurant, they are selling hygiene. You can sell network hygiene in your business. So, to quote John Lewis, good practice is not hard. It's not hard to prevent such a scenario. You simply have to do BCP 38 towards your customers and drop all packets with source internal addresses coming in from external peering. Once you've done that, you know exactly who sent a packet with an internal source. Some multi-homing customers will have certain types of problems, but those are not impossible and they are small compared to the vast number of single homes out there. This was a quote from many years ago. It's not hard, it's just good practice. Recommendations. Read Best in Current Practice 38, implement it, make use of free community tools like Team Company's Bogons, our DDoS mitigation service called Utters, and Nimbus, our near real-time threat intelligence information service. These are all no cost to you, the ISP or hosting company. Work within your community to help others within the community to learn and improve their own network hygiene. A simple MikroTik router example here for Bogon configuration. I mean, we have what, 1, 2, 3, 4 lines of text, and this is what is the BGP template for Bogons to drop traffic within the network. So we set up the BGP session, we have the BGP connection, and then here we have our filter, and our filter simply allows us to go ahead and we down here at the bottom we say set black hole yes. So any prefixes that come in via Bogons, the MikroTik will black hole. Very short, very simple configuration, and you're up and running, I would say in less than 15 minutes. Closing comments. Only you can prevent forest fires, right? That's what Smokey the Bear says. So only us as network operators can prevent bad things from happening on the internet. We, network operators and network engineers, are responsible for our network hygiene. Please take the time to validate your routes. Please take the time to validate what you are sending out to the internet. This is not a once and done, one-time process. It is something that needs to be constantly reviewed and constantly audited all the time. Please don't run smelly networks, okay? Please make sure that your network is clean. And if you have questions, if you need help, contact us at outreach@cymru.com, and one of our experts will be more than happy to help point you in the right direction and answer some questions. If you have questions, please send them to outreach@cymru.com. I will get those. I and others will be happy to answer those questions if you have any. Here are some quick references that I made in the talk about some other places on talks where you can get some additional information. So again, I'd like to say thank you very much to TESPOC, Africa Data Centers, Work Online, for bringing together this first Kenya Peering Forum and for having myself present to you today. I hope this information is valuable and useful, and I wish you the best of luck in running your networks, and I'd love to see the peering environment within Kenya continue to flourish and foster and grow. Peer with everybody you can peer with, wherever. Keep that traffic local. Thank you very much and have a great day.
A big round of applause for John Brown on that. I think if there's one thing you'll get from his presentation, just make sure your network is not done. The rest are details that you can get him on that email that he gave right there. We'll move it along to our next panel discussion, and it's all about the success derived from what we are really doing right now. How do you build value from these particular internet exchange points? We've seen the technical part of it, we've spoken to that as well, but let's speak to those who are actually running the businesses and how that actually feels for them, both on the highs, the pain points, the challenges they're facing, not only from a technical point of view, but you're on the front end and you're facing your consumer and they can't understand why what they want is not working. They don't want kizungu mingi like you were told here in explanation. They just want the job done. They want fast internet. They don't mean explanation. So those are the conversations we're having this particular.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our second panel. This afternoon we have an interesting discussion with a very interesting group of panelists who are mainly focused on the ISP market. We have a group of network providers. For me, that's one of the most interesting and highly changing network groups with a very diverse users. So it's going to be a very interesting one. In the afternoon, we have a key panel topics, which with me there will be a number of panel discussion. With me, just a word of introduction, I'm Jackie Mwai from Work Online. I head the business development in East Africa. As Benjamin said this morning, Work Online is a global microtransit provider. But really, what is key to us, we are very passionate about growing the local internet ecosystem. We have participated in this space with KXP for about 4 years. So this afternoon, we just want to participate and be able to explain why we think this is a very important group segment. With me, the panelists help me to welcome a group of network providers, very dynamic young fellow Kenyans. And to start ladies first, help me to welcome Leah Kamau of Maimanga into the panel stage. With Leah, there's a team of young dynamic men. Help me to welcome Michael Howard of Viacom to the panel stage, please. We have Stanley from Poor Internet. Stanley. We have Kenneth Mungai of Haifa Networks. I hope he's here already. Welcome. Welcome to the stage. And last but not least, we have Barak Otieno from Heavy Welcome to the stage. What is interesting about our panelists today, they connect to a very interesting group of users. In a group shell, we think they are end users. But when a CEO is at home, that's a corporate network. When a CFO is at home, that's a financial system. When a HR is at home, that's a HR system. When the technologist is at home, that's a support system. When the data analyst is at home, that's an ERP system. So for them, it's not just a user. It's a corporate, it's a business application, it's an ARP, and they want to plug in and continue with their work. So it's not just a user. So all have varied vision, all have different demands, all want an efficient and a good user system. So with me, we will discuss the different areas. How do they find success in maintaining this dynamic user group? How do they find independence, and how do they build relationships with other collaborators networks to be able to deliver, to be able to sustain and maintain their high dynamic growing end users? So to begin with, we'll allow them to introduce themselves and their network. So we'll begin with we can begin with Kenneth on the very end. Yeah. Please introduce your network.
Hello, guys. I hope you enjoy. So, my name is Kenneth Mungai, current tech lead at Haifa Technologies. That's hybrid infrastructure, HY Infra. I come from a very layered background. I've been in this industry, I think, now for the past 7 years. Started out in a previous company called Nord Africa, and then veered off now into this new entity we have over here. Our primary focus has been in VoIP. We handle voice traffic for a couple of customers, ranging from enterprise customers to small businesses, and to also individuals who want their own individual call centers. Yeah, so I'm very happy to be here, excited to be here.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Leah Kamau from Maimanga Networks Limited. I'm part of 4 directors in the company. We sell capacity to various ISPs across the country. We are currently in 3 data centers, Ikolo, Nairobi, Ikolo, Mombasa, and ADC. We peer on the local exchange with KXP and Asteroid. And I think we get layer 2 services from the major carrier networks to help serve our ISPs. And also we have retail clients in some areas in Kiambu and Thika. Yeah, I think that's it from my side.
Yeah, thank you, Leah.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon once again. So my name is Stanley, but before I introduce my company, I want to break the notion of what was trending earlier on in terms of internet affordability, and I will explain why. And I know during the morning session we were given figures, and today when you look at the market trends, we are really not yet there, but we can acknowledge that there are some strides. There's progress towards offering affordable internet to our communities. So basically, I'm from Power Internet. I believe we are the leading ISP to provide both accessible and affordable internet within Kenya currently, but we are scaling up. And our focus client is usually the underserved communities. So we'll go to the regions where, let me call them the key players do not want to go. We go, for those who are familiar with the ground, if you go to Kibera, it's one of our biggest market. So those are kind of an example of our marketplaces that we go. Our mission is to make sure that we are not leaving anyone behind, to make sure that we connect every home in Africa. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Stanley. And to you, Mike.
I am Michael Howard, with CEO of Viacom Limited. We are ISP here. We provide service for home fiber customers, SMEs, and corporate international customers. So we have a wide range of customers that have different needs that we have to provide service for. My background, I worked for IBM in the US. After leaving IBM, within 2-3 months, I invested in the ISP here, and it actually didn't go well. So in 2012, I decided to come back and start things over, based on that learning experience. I did things differently, and I actually used to deliver IT network technology for Fortune 500 companies in the US. So one thing about technology, you always have to evolve and change. I transformed IBM from a legacy centralized computing environment to a decentralized internet environment. And the way I see this ecosystem here, you're truly transforming from one technology, one method of doing things, into new technology and new methods and process of doing things, that you can become more efficient. And by becoming more efficient in delivering services at a cheaper cost, you can expand your business and make more money, because that's why we are in business.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael. On to you.
Yep, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, my name is Barak Otieno, not a stranger to this field, and also to TESPOC and KIXP. First, I'm really glad to be part of KEPF, Kenya Peering Forum. I really desired to be at AFPIF, but I couldn't make it. But I have made it to Kenya Peering Forum.
Well done.
They say charity begins at home. I'm here representing AHERINET. AHERI is an acronym for Africa Higher Education Research Institute. So this is a network that evolved from a paper to actually a real network that is now serving over 50,000 community members in Kisumu, Siaya, and Homa Bay. And thanks to the support of TESPOC, where we are members, and many other people that I'll talk about here. So in brief, AHERINET is actually in an ecosystem. Our umbrella or parent organization is called Community Initiative Support Services, which has been working in those communities in the areas I've mentioned for the last 30 plus years. And previously it focused on food security, environmental management, and livelihoods, what NGOs typically do. But just before the onset of COVID, the organization really wanted to digitize. And I had the opportunity, having consulted for them for over 20 years, to spearhead the effort. And the more I went to the communities, the more I asked, why aren't people connected? And I was told, but you have the solution. Why don't you help us connect these people? So in short, through various partnerships, we've ended up now having a community network, and we are championing the community network movement, loosely defined as infrastructure for the community, built by the community, which I'll talk about as I move along. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And wow, you can see the diverse and unique requirements that they have to serve in their respective market space. And at the core of that, each and every introduction, Kenya Internet Exchange was a core in their delivering of that services. So when we're talking about the Kenya Internet Exchange, Barak, what do you understand by it? What does it mean to you? Why do you need to plug onto it?
Thank you very much. I think loosely defined, the Internet Exchange Point allows various networks to interconnect. And I think the greatest cost in networks is actually felt for those who are in areas with least developed infrastructure. And I'm talking from being out there. When we started, we were being told that, of course, there are those who paid a lot more earlier, but we had to pay over 2,000 shillings per MB to be able to be connected. And you realize that if you have 50 MB, it's just one household or one organization. So if you multiply that by 100 or 500, and then in the rural areas, you're not really guaranteed. These people are really working to put food on the table. They don't really care whether WhatsApp is working or not. They will call at the end of the month. Of course, they will call us who are in the city to send something at the end of the month. So that's when basically the network is needed. So for us, it was a real challenge getting connectivity. I think we started off with JTL, and it's very interesting. Before Milka joined TESPOC, she was our key plug at JTL, really helping us navigate the system in JTL. And after a few months, they started with a good heart. But after a few months, they said, math is not mathing. They increased the price. Hey, now we realize who will help us. We tried Liquid, the maths was not mapping. We tried Telcom, they were a bit lenient, and we were able to grow the network. We tried Safaricom, they sent us demand notices. So it's tough being out there, but what I must say is right now we are comfortable, and thanks to the Internet Exchange, because we were able to get very affordable connectivity, and we are able to serve many more people with less, as opposed to when we started earlier, because of access to IPT and access to CDNs. And I think without the Internet Exchange Point, that would not have been possible. Thank you.
Yeah. Michael, what does costs and efficient mean to you when you plug into Kenya Internet Exchange? Yeah.
If you really look at it, as far as the this environment, this internet environment, this ecosystem, what you see, and I think everyone knows this, that streaming. The users out there are very hungry for bandwidth because everyone is streaming. In fact, about 80% of our traffic comes from content that is in the exchange. So as far as a internet service provider, if you can get connected to a environment, an ecosystem that serves 80% of your customer, automatically that makes you more efficient, and you can deliver services at a much cheaper cost, and you can also increase profit. So being in the exchange will allow us to do that. It will allow us to go back to our roots. We first got started serving underserved areas, and like you're doing, and we could not sustain that business because of the price we were paying for capacity from other ISPs. So we had to change our business model to serve more premium customers. We have laid a lot of fiber, put in a lot of fiber infrastructure to serve premium customers. Out of serving premium customers, there was a byproduct of giving us corporate customers, because a lot of those home fiber customers were directors, CEOs of different major companies. So now we can go back to our roots, being in the exchange. We have lowered our cost to SMEs, because that's important to us, that we could deliver good bandwidth and services to SMEs, because we realize a lot of SMEs do not have the funds that corporate customers have. So we have started lowering our prices for SMEs. We are now back in the market of serving low-end customers, home fiber customers. We are looking at some estates with 700 customers, 3,000 estates with 3,000 customers. Now we can serve those customers again because we are connected to the exchange. We can get that content that they need for a very efficient price. All the content that people use every night to stream and for entertainment. So it really have opened up a new market for us as far as going back to our roots to serve those low-end customers. And then the corporate customers who are heavily IP driven, now we can deliver those services to them more efficient, being in the data center and connected to the exchange. Okay.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Over to you, Stanley. How does your connecting to Kenya Internet Exchange ensure your service availability, uptime, and also connect and solidify your network as a fault-tolerant network?
Okay. I want to use a scenario, actually a service challenge we experienced some time back.
Yeah.
So today, our network connection, we rely on the carriers in terms of the local loops and the backhauling. So when you look at services like payment services, today in Kenya, majority is through mobile, yeah? Like M-Pesa, I think, is the most popular. M-Pesa services, when a client pays, then if we want to automatically reconnect our clients and learn that this client has paid, then we need that kind of data from, let's say, for example, Safaricom, yeah? So we were having a challenge whereby we were seeing a lot of delays in terms of auto reconnection. And actually, there was a technical challenge in terms we had not gotten the root cause even after about 48 hours until we realized that there was a breakdown in terms of how we were exchanging. So all the traffic was going international and then coming back. So you can imagine if you do UK, I think you do 150 millisecond plus to and fro, it's a lot of delay. So until we realized that was a problem and then we were able to fix, then our problem was fixed. So the reason I brought that is so that you can understand in terms of how the local traffic really, by optimizing the routes, it really works in terms of the service availability, in terms of the experience even with the client, because if a client, there's a delay to connect the client, then it's a big issue. Also, in terms of the local exchange of traffic, I think being, as I explained, our target market is the underserved, and basically the one who really cannot really afford big premiums. So when you look at our traffic today, we are not yet there. I think currently 50% of our traffic is local plus CDNs. Unfortunately, we are working on getting some of the CDNs in Mombasa. I think they are not readily available in Nairobi. But the moment I know we are able to optimize that, we'll be at 80% actually. What I think Bishuki had indicated, we need to get to 80%. So when you look at such, it reduces the price for IPT, and that price is able to be replicated to our clients, thereby making internet more affordable. Yep.
Absolutely. Keeping traffic local is a key thing in this discussion. Yeah. For Leah, you are serving a very unique market segment. You have B2C, you have B2B, you're serving the end user, the reseller, and so for you, it's very key to plug into internet exchange. How does relationship with backhaul and local loop providers enable you to plug into internet exchange, as well as enable you to be able to create value and to translate that value into success in connecting your B2B and your B2C customers?
Okay, I think let me start by first saying how we even started to be in all the data centers, so that it makes sense how that local content plays out and where to get it. Yeah. So we initially started at Ikolo Karen, getting local content from someone who was giving us from Kasher. And then you find out that it's a bit expensive and you're not getting the latencies you should get, and some of the traffic is actually going to IPT, so it becomes a bit expensive. Yes. So now you figure out, where am I going to get this content, like Akina, Netflix, Amazon, Microsoft. Now you move to ADC, which is nearer because it's in Nairobi. You get into KXP, you get contact, you pair with them. Remember, you're also adding cost because you have to do rack space, you have to do cross connect, and to point out, those are in US dollars, and we all know what is happening to the dollar. So then you get traffic there, and you're like, okay, so you are growing your network, you are giving local content, but not fully, because now you want Google, which is basically, most of the time, it's 40 to 50% of the network, and Meta. You have to go to Mombasa. So for you to get traffic from Mombasa, we went to Ikolo, Mombasa. You have to get layer 2 or dark fiber, but dark fiber is very expensive. So you go the layer 2 way. The amount of cost you're given is also a bit high for one small ISP, if I might say that, to actually even sign contracts with the carriers. So you come as a group, do maybe 10 gig links, and then share even equipment in DCs to lower your cost, because now it becomes a bit costly for that. So, and then providing that local content and the dedicated, we also use the carrier networks. So for them, it's usually more about reliability, because for that ISP who is, let's say, in Nyeri, maybe they are connected at Mombasa, right? So that reliability has to be there, because uptime for Mombasa is actually very good because of the local content, right? The Google and Meta. And even the IPTs, they rarely go down, like the downtimes are minimal. So for that ISP to actually have 99% uptime, our carriers have to provide that. And you come to learn, even with the power blackout that happened a few weeks ago, that some base stations don't have enough power to really say they're reliable, right? So sometimes that's where you go. If they're providing good the ability, you also provide the same. It spills over to that. When we come to dark fiber, because we use like KPLC, the uptime, maintenance, and repairs goes into all that. It's a challenge sometimes because cuts happen because of constructions. Construction by the county, by private developers, and all that. It happens in the middle of the night. You can't get the contractors on the ground. Clients are down. The end users don't care who was constructing what road or what was going on. So then that plays also a part on the ability of the network. Someone is maybe even on a WhatsApp call, then it just goes down. Yeah? Then it becomes a bit hard to explain to clients what's going on. Yeah. So I'll say it spills down from the bigger carriers giving us leadability, and then we do the same for the smaller ISPs, and also it spills now to the home users.
Home user.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can see that's a very good example of collaborative networks, how they come together to be able to attain a cost-effective service level. And that we'll see also through that. Yeah. For Martin, when you look at the role of ISP in shaping the whole internet ecosystem, you have a very key role in influencing the MNOs, the carriers, the tier ones, so that they can be able to deliver a cost-effective network. Where do you see the network, the ISP, playing a role in influencing the MNOs, the carriers, the content creator? What should they do, or how should they shape this conversation to be able to get a cost-effective, efficient service which they can deliver to their client?
Okay, so in terms of cost effectiveness, I find that, okay, I think I'll use one client as an example. So as I said, we deal primarily in voice services, and for the most part, it entails having a talk with the customer in a way that you can have a sense of how they run their business. So there are a few ways that if someone isn't as informed in that area, you end up using more money. In this case, that was being used in terms of airtime. You'd find a company has around 500 agents, and a few of them run within the call center, but a huge chunk of them run outside doing errands from here to there. So for them to come from that to using a cloud-hosted PABX service, which was being paired now from Pikes DC with KXP. So for one, that really cut their airtime cost, and that also played into now their yearly revenue that they got. So I would say the big part is just having that conversation with clients, and then now there are also new elements that we need to have that talk now with the carrier networks, for instance, with other ISPs within, because we also partner with other ISPs to offer the same service.
Okay, absolutely. It's about keeping the conversation going, the conversation with the carrier, conversation with the MNOs, and just through that conversation coming up with creative ways to be able to form partnership to deliver the services. Yeah. When we're talking about setting up internet and the challenges, what does it mean to you? What does it take? How is the regulatory environment? What are the challenges that you face? You've all mentioned you're serving key areas, underserved markets, educational networks, and in terms of just mentioning one or two challenges, each of you, what does it mean to you? What sort of key challenges? If I can start with Stanley right in the middle. Yeah.
Okay,
What does it mean?
Thank you. So cost, first of all. And the biggest challenge in terms of setting up the infrastructure. So for us, what we've done is we partner with the carriers, most of the providers, and we usually do the last mile distribution, the layer 2 to the clients. We do our own infrastructure, and then we rely on other providers in terms of local loops and the IPT. So it's a challenge to build the infrastructure, It's quite big. And the other challenge I would say, and it's a trend in the market, and I know maybe some of the other service providers are experiencing, considering us gays, we serve the underserved, and you can imagine the kind of environment now our clients live in. We've seen a trend whereby theft of telecommunication equipment, it's on an upsurge. For example, we have a big chunk of it on the radio network, and also even up to the level of network devices. So we have some internal measures, of course, which we are currently, but I even call upon even TESPOC maybe to organize a forum whereby we can try to deep dive into such a challenge, because I know it's a big headache for most of the guys, and see on some of the solution we can get. Thanks.
For Barack, when the BAC was stopping at you to set up the network, what were the regulatory challenges that you had to overcome to create a successful network to what it is today?
Well, I think, unlike in the past, let me start on a more positive note. I think the regulatory environment has been more open and more supportive, and maybe that goes to support the emergence of a lot of these local networks. Some of them we call them Sambaza, some of them, the more formal ones, are community networks. But I think the truth of the matter is even our universities are churning out very many engineers. Some of them are at home. If I may just share an interesting case, when we started our network, we relied a lot on TVET, people who had been in TVETs, basically those who had trained to be electricians and the likes. And the first guy that we actually got, who was really good in pulling cable, you know, the buildings in the village, they don't follow any particular building code. So you really need to know the guys who did the buildings if you want to do something proper there. And when you go in there, you also deal with all sorts of creatures. So that's what made us really rely on these guys. But after I think 6 months, the guy disappeared, and I was shocked to drive into Two Rivers Mall one day and find that he's the head of this thing that allows us to go in. I don't know how to call it. The barrier, the access control system. He was in charge of it, and he took me to his office. So you can imagine this guy has come from the village all the way to Two Rivers to do this kind of work. For once, I was really happy about a practical example of having been involved in impacting someone's life like that. But there are many like that, and I want to segue into the question or into the issue that my colleague from Power Internet has mentioned. Unless we meaningfully engage these young men, the radios will not stop disappearing. That one I can guarantee you. These are our brothers, these are our sisters, they are looking for work. In fact, ule hajawahi pigwa number 9. Sorry, let me say in English. If you've never been accosted in town by those young people who tell you, I'm also demanding for a share of what you have, then you'll not appreciate. Some of these guys go hungry for days, and it's a real scenario. In fact, for us in the community, we have grown because of caretakers. We take care of them very well, and they take care of us very well in making sure our radios don't disappear. So I don't know what Power Internet is doing, and in making sure that we have customers. I mean, there's nothing for free.
Yes.
I went to a school near Kapenguria, and we were looking for a place to do a mast, and the head teacher told me, my friend, you know Safaricom was here, and they left something. Have you come the same way? And I came with a lot of English. So I had to go and revise the conversation. So the truth of the matter is there's more awareness, and thanks to the legal and regulatory environment, there's more, I think most of us are using the 2.4 and 5.8 gigahertz range, which is free in quotes. Again, thanks to the regulatory environment. I also think there's been a lot of deliberate attention from TESPOC and CA, the data protection. They've been a bit lenient also to encourage small players to come up, and there's been a lot of deliberate effort to make sure that the costs or the barriers of entry into this space are really lowered. Most of the small networks just start with maybe a capital of 10K or 15K. Of course, if a radio has not been picked from somewhere, but nonetheless, some of them are really connecting very many people. So I would say that we are where we are thanks to a supportive legal and regulatory environment. And again, just to say, previously our eyes were not opened. We didn't know. But more and more, you sit with people from Jericho and they're telling you about BGP. They're telling you about the exchange, which means this conversation has really gone into mashinani. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, tuache Kiswahili mingi. The core thing is now the technical capability and the skills, the youth and how to engage them in shaping our internet ecosystem is very key. That absolutely has been brought up. Yeah. For Michael and Leah, how does technical skills, how do you overcome the technical skills challenge and multi-vendor environment to plug in at the internet exchange and ensure that your network gets plugged in and the routers and the radios are intact in this market space?
Okay. Before I really answer that question, I'd just like to add to what he said. As far as two huge challenges, personally, that ISPs, and probably some of you all have experienced the same challenges, is the larger ISPs sometimes look at us as competitors versus partners. So they can put hurdles in the way and to try to stop you from accomplishing what you need, and in many cases, delivering services to the end users. A couple of points, the local loops. Local loops is an important part of the internet ecosystem because that's how you connect users to the entire ecosystem. And they can't access the content from the exchange if you don't have the necessary local loops to provide the piping so they can access internet. And the larger ISPs, how they do their pricing and their approach, they make it difficult to get the local loops to expand your business. Even the backhaul network, they price it sometimes quite high. I would have probably gotten into the data center and doing the exchange 2 years earlier, but I can never really get a reasonable price that I can sustain my business to access the data center until one day a large ISP came and said, hey, we would do this for you. And now we are truly growing together. They increasing their revenue from me. I'm increasing my revenue. I am growing users. So it's a win-win for both parties. And that's something that larger ISPs need to understand, that these smaller ISPs can help them grow their revenue if they can partnership with them. So that's been a major challenge. And going back to the question about skills, I tend to hire younger people right out of the universities because we have an extremely high standard in our company. And sometimes when we hire the older engineers, more experienced technical people, they tend to do things their way, and it may not be what we're looking for as far as the standard we want to set as a company. So we normally hire engineers right out of school, and we actually train them ourselves. And we actually have consultants that is extremely capable, some of the top engineers here in Kenya that will come and train them. So when we got into ADC and had to do pairing and BGP, we didn't have the skills. So we hired some of those consultants to work with the younger engineers we have to train them and help us get connected and integrated into the ADC and able to do pairing. So that's what we do as far as hiring consultants to come in and train our younger engineers. And one of my oldest engineer, I think he's 29, 30, but he have become one of the top engineers here in Kenya just by putting consultants and have them to come in and do the training. So we actually probably take a different approach than many other ISPs on how we go about producing skills in the company.
Actually, that's a very interesting partnership. You've mentioned two key partnerships, the partnering with the backhaul providers to reduce costs and time to market, and partnering with experienced consultant to train in-house your engineers and keep your standards of the organization and build up a culture, business culture that you want to maintain. That's really excellent. Finding solution from the ecosystem pool of resources. Yeah. Over to you, Leah.
I think he's mentioned most of it, but also to add just a bit on maybe technical experience and challenges is even when you're starting out as an ISP, you have not heard of even BGP at that point. Yeah. You're just doing pairing with other tier 3s, getting the caches. So as you grow, you get to know there are certain things you need when you're in data centers. You start with getting IPs from Afrinic, where you start, they're supportive, cost comes in, right? And then it's also ERD because you have to renew. So also setting up the BGPs, we usually get consultants for that and manage by an in-house technician, an engineer. Also even routing the best routes to use. Not everyone knows how to do some of those things. So you learn with experience. You get help from other ISPs. Not the bigger carrier networks are not very supportive on such. As he said, we are competitors at that point, other than partners. But it will be better if they viewed us as partners, because then they will help us. If we are peering and getting capacity from them, then they would be able to help us in setting up, even though it's at a cost, but at least hold your hand, because we all gain, because we grow our network, they also grow their network. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Ms. Fiona, there is a big need of collaborative setting up of training. Afrinic, I know there's partnership with Afrinic and KXP. I think we need more of that to be able to grow up the foundational skills and knowledge for setting up the ISP, as well as just being able to configure, bring in the independence of the ISP providers. Yeah. One of the growing concern has been security. With the recent hack, security is in everybody's mind. So as ISP, how do you see the collaboration with other ecosystem players should be to be able to address the security needs within our network ecosystem. For you, you are customer facing, there are security concerns there. There is also the content you deliver to the customer. There is a core network, how you run it, how you maintain it, in light of the skills, the technical capability you're also growing. And also you're connecting to other networks who have got certain security requirements that they need you to adhere or to come up with. How do you see this collaboration should be to be able to address a security concern, both in terms of network infrastructure and in terms of the content? I'll begin with you, Martin.
When it comes to matters of security, so there are a few elements. There is the end user, and then there's now us as the ISP with our own networking infrastructure. And then there's also partners, like now when, like there's that cascading model of that network from the main, our main uplink providers coming to us. And there are also a few carrier networks who we partner with. So there is an exchange of traffic between us and them. So it gets hacked, gets intruded into. For when they find a way to backtrack from that and block the loopholes that the hackers got into, that should be a shared information. Because nearly all of us have, okay, there might be differences in how we set up our own digital networks, but there are some commonalities between all of us. So in the event partner A gets hacked, that should be a shared information that you can now use to in a way secure ourselves in the event. Because there is a very deep knowledge base for how people get intruded into. So in some of it also falls with the end user, and that kind of ties in with having training to inform the end user what they need to do on their end, whether it's having policies related with how you use your own end devices. If you have could be laptops, could be your routers, it could be your edge devices basically. So there should be a mass way to have the end user sensitized. Most times it's role-based access. You can find multiple users have the same access to the same infrastructure, but in that sense it shouldn't be layered. One user should have access to the entire infrastructure if they don't need to. So in terms of security,
simple to do to ensure that we have a standard when we roll out routers across our network, that only certain ports that is required for us to deliver service is open. Because a lot of times people access your network through different ports that is open, and they should not be open. Like, for example, file transfer ports, there's no reason that a network that would open. So we do things at a lower level from the router to ensure our network is protected. But I think we can definitely do a lot more after watching this presentation today to ensure our network is clean. We're about to put in DNS servers. So I've learned some things what we need to do as we put in those DNS servers. But after today, we're going to take more control to make sure we have a clean network and not rely too much on the larger ISPs.
Thank you very much. I think security is a societal challenge or issue, and to address security, the society definitely has to be addressed. If you look at most of the security attacks or security scenarios on the internet, they are results of social engineering. Yeah, so in our case, capacity building has been key, starting from our end users to our key personnel who are interacting with the systems on a day-to-day basis. It's also worth noting that a lot of the attacks or intrusions also come from beyond our borders because most of us acquire equipment from other regions, which we sort of need time to be able to understand how it operates and the loopholes. So one of the things that we have done as an organization or as a community network is to make sure that we have the right policies and organizational standards in place. Even for us like me who probably are advanced users who know a bit better, I don't want to call myself an expert. We make sure that we have to adhere to these organizational policies, and we also encourage our home users to have the same. Because if the network, and it's interesting, we keep talking of big networks and small networks. I think it's always about the number of users that we each have an opportunity to serve at any given time. But looking at the structure of our networks, everyone needs an upstream, everyone has a core, everyone has a distribution layer, and everyone has an access layer. If any of these layers are compromised, it doesn't matter if it is from the end user, then the security of the entire system is actually compromised. But I think as I finalize, I would say that for us it's been collaborative. I see a lot of people in this room who probably, if you have a situation in call, you have a solution. For the small players, it's really easy, but at times for the big players, they always ask, what's your budget? That's the first conversation. Yet we are trying to solve a common problem together. Thank you.
As a parting shot, what's your take in terms of the need for more collaboration outside budget, outside finance?
I think for me is just to comment, like what's happening here is a factor of collaboration. I'm writing a lot of notes and I'm also sharing knowledge. And I think this has been the Kenyan spirit. Us coming together through fora or initiatives such as this, we've seen communities. For us, we're in the communities, people asking, what do you need so that we can set up internet in this place? You are the engineer. They come together, they buy infrastructure, and they give us facilities where we will mount towers so that we can have internet. So So I think the Kenyan spirit of coming together, raising resources together and getting things done is really crucial. So above all, I know at some point the bottom line becomes an issue, because even when you have free infrastructure, maintaining it is just a big headache or a problem. It's a cost center. But for as long as we have gatherings such as this, for as long as we have ISPs, I would say that for our network, it was a collective effort. There are so many people that I can pick the call and say, sasa tumefika mwisho wa wiki. What do we do with this configuration here? And people actually set aside days, even weeks. They even travel to Kisumu, so many, to come and make sure that the infrastructure is set up and is working properly. I think at one time we had an issue with DNS. Somebody in the community just volunteered and set up a DNS server for us. So what more do we need? Whatever little we get, we share among us, but we deal with the common problem of connecting the unconnected. Thank you.
What was the question?
What would be your potential regarding the system? And what do you see as the trend you would like to see going forward?
I really believe just having this session today is perfect. And I felt like my senior engineer, I said you should really be here. So anytime there's an opportunity to have a session like this, people come together, share knowledge, share ideas, I think it's perfectly way to collaborate. So we definitely, as a company, feel like after today, we need to be more involved in collaborating in the internet ecosystem, so we can participate. Maybe we can provide some input and provide some knowledge, and we can gain knowledge also as part of the collaboration. So I think that's what's important. There was a story I like to share. It's a short story. When I was an engineer coming out of university, I interviewed for IBM, and this guy said, "This little black box is going to change the world. You should come here if you want to work on something that will change the world." So I was excited. I got offers from other places, making much more money, but I was interested in that little black box. That little black box was the laptop. It was the first laptop that IBM developed that drove that technology, and I got the opportunity to work on it. Had patents in my name, and I would say that when I look at Kenya, I see this black box moment here, where technology is coming together, networking is coming together. I was speaking to young engineers in Boeing not too long ago. They were about to graduate and things like that. But sometimes they think that they need to go other places to get involved in technology. And I told them, this is your black box moment. You should be here. This is the best place to be right now at this moment, at this time. Maybe it was someplace else in the past, but as far as how technology is evolving here, I think this is the best place to be when it comes to evolving new technology and just how the community is looking at technology. So that's it.
In terms of the collaboration, I think first of all, we don't keep organizers of people. I think one of the things is a lot of knowledge share. Sometimes we hear something new that we have forgotten about, and of course we want to try it. So there is the slogan that keeps coming from me in terms of keeping record, traffic record, which for me, I think there is improvement, but we need to make sure that we are striving towards that, just to make sure that we are doing internet traffic cost to the lowest level possible.
internet ecosystem, I think we just need to do a bit more to up the number of local content percentage-wise. But even the big players in the market are already doing part of it, even though we have a few challenges with, like, they already do layer 2 dark fiber for even other ISPs. Because if they will not do that, then we will not be able to meet the needs of clients who are at home, right? But some of the things that maybe they could work on is costing for growing ISPs. Like also, I would say charging in dollars. Right now it's a big challenge because it keeps going higher. Because like in January it was 120, now it's 150. That's a whole 30 USD in a few months. That's a big challenge because if you look like at data center pricing, cross connects, rack space, what else? Dark fibers, all these things are in US dollars. But who are the people maintaining these and actually working? It is people who are local. Most likely, I'm not sure, but they're being paid in shillings. But if they're even paid in dollars, they exchange to shillings. So where we exchanging in dollars? Yeah, please.
We don't sign no contracts that's in dollars. If someone presents us a contract in dollars, we don't do business with them. All of our contracts are in shillings, except for the African, which I understand. But any other contract we have is in shillings. So just don't sign contracts no more in dollars.
Yeah. So what happens if they give you for you to sign in shillings? Like right now, if you're getting into a new contract, they're going to peg it on 150. So then it becomes also a challenge. Will the dollar go lower? You get my point? So the person who got into the contract in January got a better rate. Okay, fine. Then we have also challenges in various counties where some counties are paying more, some are not sure if they're supposed to pay really. Okay, good. Then also even permits, railway can have those challenges out there. Yeah. Thank you.
So to take it home, so we are all in the same industry, and I believe we all cater to various individual niches. So the parting shot in terms of collaboration, we can all work together. It's not a matter of fighting for slice the same pie, but we can all create individual pies for everyone else.
Thank you very much, panelists. I told powerfully what of the issue, spirit of partnership, collaboration, sharing, and as the core of the internet exchange. So thank you very much for sharing the challenges and also looking at trends and expressing the need and desires for these challenges to be addressed. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Janki, for that, and of course for the panel. Not only talking about how we can, exchange traffic, but also exchanging ideas and best practice and some of the things that we probably do every day in our business. Yet, if you or someone else in the room has another way where you can cut your costs and make your business more efficient. And that really was what this forum is all about. We're now at the tail end of the program, talking about regulatory aspects of where we are, any updates on that, a brief on the process as well. And if you have any questions that you'd like to pose regulatory-wise, this would be a good point to have your pen and paper ready. He'll be more than willing to answer them, and if it's something that needs a bit more conversation after, he will do exactly that. I'd like to call on stage from the Communication Authority, Mr. Crispin Obongo, to take us through that part of the program. A round of applause for him as he comes on stage.
Good afternoon. Is it even? Some people say that after 4 p.m. Okay, some people are 1 hour. All right, so obviously we talked about a lot of IP ecosystem, internet ecosystem. And I think it's a good time now to talk about ecosystem. And I think it's just giving me a bit of a heads up, in terms of what could be the expectation out of this workshop today. I'll try to do as much as possible to stick to the script that was discussed with the fella. But do I have a point here? Okay. Right, so first and foremost, I think it would be very important for me to say what we do as the authority, because it's not good to assume that we all know what the authority is all about. And so it's important for me to indicate that the mandates of the authority as listed on your screen. And the very first one is the fact that the authority undertakes licensing and overall regulation of the ICT infrastructure and systems and services. And the second issue is the management of the resources within the country. And when we talk about resources, we're talking about spectrum resources, we're talking about numbering, and of course, one thing that you're very familiar with is the domain, because I believe that as internet service providers, this is one thing that is very common to the South. The other thing that we do is, of course, facilitating the development and management of national cybersecurity, and a lot has been talked about in terms of the cyber attacks and how it has impacted, or rather it continues to impact us. The measures we need to take into account in order to ensure that our networks and ourselves are secure. And that level, that form of collaboration, I think does not just, rest within the players in the sector, but it also requires the regulatory authority where we have the case that are sitting in. So the authority plays a key role in ensuring the cybersecurity. Matters, of course, one of the questions you asked, you're likely to ask him is, where were we when we were attacked a few days ago or a few weeks ago? But it doesn't mean that if you have a door and it locks, a thief will not come in, isn't it? Yeah. So it can still happen. But the question is, what do you do after that? And how do you ensure that you avoid that in the future? And that is what we need to collaboratively do together to ensure that we keep our networks safe. The other thing that the authority does is to approve equipment, and I think, of course, it goes without saying that the panelists who have come from out of this place have talked about network equipment, radio equipment, and all those things require that we use certain level of standards that ensure that they are compliant with the regulatory frameworks. The next thing is, of course, the issues of consumer protection, a very important aspect. These consumers are your customers, but these consumers are also the reason why the authority has been established. Basically, to ensure that the consumer interest is taken into account. So when the authority is undertaking regulation, basically what it is doing is trying to look at what the players are doing in the industry, but with a view to ensure that what the players are doing actually is protecting the interest of the consumers in terms of quality, in terms of accessibility, in terms of affordability. And then, of course, we also undertake management of competition in the sector, and also administering universal service fund, which is one component that is related to what the latest panelists have been talking about, bringing services closer to the people, particularly the underserved community. Now, with all that, of course, those are just a few of the functions or rather the mandate of the authority. But the essence of all that is basically to create a conducive environment. You are either an investor or you are facilitating an investor one way or the other. And what the authority basically does is to create an enabling environment, or rather a conducive environment for all these players. I've used one term called middleware, which I'm sure most of you know, but I'm conversant with it than myself. But I'm using it to relate to the authorities' mandate in terms of policy and business. It's like the authority sits in somewhere in between the government and the business community that are investing in the ICT sector. I wouldn't imagine if you would feel more comfortable if the Kenya Information and Communications Act is somewhere there and the business community is somewhere there, and then we're required to comply with the act, but there's nowhere in between to act as a buffer between you and the government or the law enforcement agencies trying to ensure that you follow the act. So I believe that the authority is playing a very key role in terms of ensuring that, in terms of sitting in between, to be the bridge between the business community and the government, or rather the legal systems of the country. And that is what I call the builder, and I hope that point is home. The other key role that the authority plays is the referee role, meaning, of course, here I think we're talking about internet service providers, we're talking about tech community in the internet space. But of course, the overall industry that the authority oversees has got several players, and you look at it from the point of view of a layered approach, where we have the international gateway operators, we have the mobile network operators, whom we are calling as network facility provider tier 1, and then we come to the tier 2, we come to tier 3, we come to service providers. So we have sort of a layered form of types of licensees. And basically what that means is that we are playing the referee or trying to make sure that every person gets what is due to them, rather what is relevant to them. So tell so and so, be there, you be there, you be there. And all of us, or rather all of you, play your rightful role to ensure that the Kenyan communication needs are actually met. Right from the village to the United Kingdom. Alright? So we also play the gatekeeper role, and this is basically from the consumer perspective, because our interest is, like I said, is to protect the consumers. So we do the gatekeeping role of ensuring that the consumers obtain what is relevant to them. Of course, there is the administration role that we also play. Where there are children, usually there are always cases to be judged. And where we sit as authority, we look at the players that are children. They're all important to us. And sometimes they have squabbles. And when they have those squabbles, we have to come in and ensure that we do the necessary arbitration. And that is very important because, say for example, the community network operators or service providers who just left the stage, and even internet service providers. I know, of course, there exist issues that probably of getting services from the upstream providers. sometimes there are those kind of challenges. But the position of the authority is that where those challenges you try to negotiate within yourselves. Where there is difficulty, those need to be brought to the authority's attention for arbitration and to ensure that at the end of the day people are able to understand one another and are able to provide the services. I think no, that's not me. All right, somebody seems to be having a question.
Does the authority have all the capacity or the
Okay. I seem to have shot myself in the foot. But the thing is, what I mean is, okay, in the ICT regulatory framework, there is a designated auditor, and that is the Kenya Multimedia Communications and Multimedia Appeals Tribunal. So that is actually the designated arbiter. Okay, but what I mean by the arbiter, please put it in quotes. It's not the legal one. It's where, say, for example, two interconnecting parties maybe are having issues. They can come to the authority for to try and resolve the issues. But the ultimate arbitration is actually this. So, in terms of licensing, I know one of the things that is very critical is information. And I think this is one of the things that I think has been lacking for so many players, or other potential players, and especially the small players in the access networks. What do they need in order to get a license, or what do they need to fulfill in order for them to get a license, and perhaps even how to approach the authority in terms of getting the license. One of the things that we've had is that, I don't know, does it appear like the authority is very unreachable? I think we are not. We are very much receptive and ready and willing to support all players by guiding you appropriately in terms of what do you need to do in order for you to play your rightful role in the sector and also make a call out of it. I think the perception perhaps that maybe the authority is sitting somewhere in an ivory tower with a stick, I think that is not the kind of situation that we are looking at. And so I think what I want to implore upon every player, small or big as it is to be, please come to the authority. Because one thing that is very clear is that the Kenya Information and Communications Act requires that any person who provides the communication service needs to provide it under license. And so you don't want to be outside the law, and yet of course there is a very friendly mechanism of reaching us and being able to get to the assistance so that you actually can be able to provide services within the law. Turnaround time, I think, is a key concern. We try our best to try and process the licenses within the shortest time that we can. But of course, within certain limitations, sometimes I'm sure some of you who have approached us once in a while may have experienced certain delays. But that does not mean that it's our nature. I think it's just something that is part and parcel of life, that sometimes we want to do something but we may not be perfect in doing it. But we try our best to make sure that we do process your applications within timelines. Issues of compliance, when somebody obtains the license, I think one of the things that we notice is that most of our licensees will pick a license and actually keep it like a title deed. It's not something that we want to expose to everyone. We keep it like a title deed. But I think what we need to appreciate, all of us, is that it is important that we understand what those license conditions mean, what are your obligations in those license conditions, and what are your rights under those license conditions. When you do appreciate all that, you actually hold under the license. So very important to make sure you actually hold under the license. So very important to make sure that you appreciate and understand what your license talks about. So I was just about to talk about two important things, or other concepts. One of the things I wanted, I was told I was coming to speak about is to speak to investors. I know we are investors, isn't it? Now, so two important things that I wanted to indicate is that the authority is a common regulator, so it means that the authority regulates all the, all what you can see in the screen, that is telecoms, broadcasting, post-trade media, authority undertakes standardization, and also manages resources, as I already indicated. But one thing that is very important again is the fact that the authority has what is called a unified licensing framework, which makes it a lot easier for technology adoption and regulation. Because if you may have appreciated, and we all live in Kenya, is that we've never struggled quite a bit, especially since the year 2008, to adopt new technologies within the country, because we don't have to look for time to make regulations or to craft a license for a technology to take root in Kenya. Because the framework that we have can actually is wide enough to be able to absorb and take in any technology that comes. And so with that unified licensing framework, we have infrastructure licenses, which are, as you can see, the network facility provider, the 1, 2, and 3, and the submarine cable, and international gateway. Now the last two would actually look like you're not a technology neutral regulator, because why are we talking about submarine and why are we talking about international gateway, and yet all of them are international facility systems. One of the things that we'll be doing in a short while, maybe before the end of the year, is that the authority shall be coming back to the industry just to do a bit of consultation in terms of review of the market structure, where the market structure is actually this categorization of licenses. And one of the things that we hope to address is whether or not to keep submarine cable license and international gateway licenses as separate licenses or actually merged into one, because as a technology regulator we shouldn't be talking about two different technologies as two different licenses. Yes, I think I don't want to spend much time on this because I'm sure one way or the other we must have been coming across this categorization in our website. A very mouthful slide over there. And one of the things that I wanted to do is basically to take us through what our communication market structure is. It might be boring, but very important in terms of somebody who is an investor or a potential investor and who wants to perhaps know which license will be more important for them to invest in, what is the cost, what is the scope of that license, and things like that. I will spend time in two slides like this one and the next one. There are more others, but those others I will not be looking at, because when I looked at the audience, the only person who came from the media was Esther, who I think has been in the room. She does, yeah. So the rest of us seems to be telecoms. Who else is from the room? I'm sorry, but not for today. Thank you. All right, so just like I indicated earlier, so our market structure, this is the telecoms market structure, and it is the first slide we're looking at are purely infrastructure-based licenses. The next one we'll be looking at will be service-based service licenses, because the unified licensing framework is divided into service and infrastructure licenses. So the NFP Tier 1 is actually the scope of that license is the Christian as the mobile network operator, basically. And the only difference between the Tier 1 and Tier 2 is the fact that Tier 1 obtains a nationwide infrastructure, or rather, access spectrum, as opposed to Tier 2 that when they are to get any spectrum, they will get spectrum on a regional basis. But both NFP Tier 1 and Tier 2 can actually build infrastructure across the country using any technology without any form of restriction. So the only difference, which I want to emphasize, is that when it comes to access spectrum allocation, the nationwide access spectrum allocation, and that is only applicable to NFP Tier 1, and that is no mobile operators. Tier 2, the difference is that when they require any access spectrum, that will be allocated on a regional basis. So if you want a spectrum and you want to deploy it in Nairobi, you will be given that spectrum in Nairobi if it is available, but you cannot say that, okay, I'm going to Mombasa and now I want that same spectrum in Mombasa. You won't get it because highly likely there's another Tier 2 operator that wants to go to the same spectrum in Mombasa. The fees, as you can see, the application fees of 5,000, initial license fee is 15 million, and we think that is very affordable. But of course, the annual operating fee is 0.4% of the gross turnover, or 4 million for the NFP Tier 1, and 0.4% of the gross turnover, and I think there's a typo there. For Tier 2, it should be 0.4 or 800,000, right? Whichever is higher. I think we are taking a very little amount of money from the industry. Imagine just 0.4%. We're not even asking for 1%. I think that is fair. All right. Okay. And I don't want further to engage me because otherwise I'll run from this pulpit. Tier 3 is actually a license that was designed for local investors, basically because we realized that there is need for small-time investors to still, have a cake of the telecommunication industry, build infrastructure and provide services. And to do that, we have this Tier 3, which allows one to build infrastructure within a country. And so you can comfortably roll out fiber, do microwave systems, and any form of technology and build your infrastructure within Nairobi County, provide services. And if you go to Mombasa, you can do the same. Go to Nakuru, you can do the same. I think the only limitation currently that this has is that when you are having a network in Nairobi and Kiambu County, you can't link the two. Okay? But you can build network in Kiambu, in Murang'a, in Mombasa, in Garissa. You can have those highlights of networks. But then to connect them, you need to get the services over Tier 2 or Tier 1 to be able to connect the two networks. Again, this is a subject of possible review. When we come back to you before the end of this year, please give us your comments as to whether we can continue to keep it as it is, or how we can enhance it, or how we can claw back from it if we need to do so. Then, of course, we have, I think, submarine cable landing right. I think we all know what that is about. Michuki told us a lot about it. We know international systems and services. Basically, this is what traditionally we used to use for international connectivity. It's a satellite earth stations that are actually managed under this form of license, which also provides international connectivity. Satellite landing rights basically are licenses we issue to international satellite operators who do not necessarily have to operate from Kenya. The only thing they have is that they have satellite in the sky, but for them to have their satellite footprint used in Kenya, then we have to sort of give them a license. But as you can see, we only charge them $12,000, and that's a one-time fee for 15 years. Basically, it authorized the satellite used in Kenya. And then, of course, we come to a very special license called the Community Networks and Service Provider. As you can see, this is a license that defines the unified licensing framework. Because like I said, all that I've been talking about are infrastructure-based licenses. Then the next line we should be looking at is service-based licenses. So when we're talking about this, it combines both infrastructure and service. So it's a special license, and special because courtesy of FENA and advocacy, we appreciated that at the grassroots level, these people might not have, so they might not have, the ability to have, to pay a lot of fees and build infrastructure separately, and then also provide our service provider license separately. And so we try to make it easy by combining the infrastructure-based license and the service license so that they can do everything together. We can build infrastructure and still be able to provide services. And we want to appeal to any community network out there to come for the license, because like I said earlier, I want to repeat again, it is important that we all play by the law, and because breaking the law is not patriotism. And so we must try to make it as cheap as possible and as easy as possible. As you can see, the application fee is 1,000, and then annual fee is just 5,000. So you can make millions, but the only thing we ask you is 5,000. And the reason we're asking for that money is not because we really need the money. It's just because if you read the Kenya Information and Communications Act, license fees cannot be waived. Okay? It is now that I think we're talking about waiver in draft review, but even with that, it is only to a category that does not include all those who are in the So license fees cannot be waived, and so we can't give a license without some small fee. We just 5,000, just to make sure that we are still within the law. I think this is not a too much ask, and so we need to appeal to all those players out there who have not obtained licenses that they need to do so, because it is important to do so. Because of the time that I don't have much time, again, this is something that we can also look at them from our website. I may not have to go through it, but these are the service licenses. Then we have the broadcast license, market structure, and then also include market structure. And then, of course, I had the licensing process, which possibly I could have, if I had time, I would have tried to explain in detail so that people can get a little bit comfortable in terms of knowing what is it that we do in order for us to ultimately issue a license. That 135 days that you see there is the turnaround time. To get a license. But not all, but those licenses that actually also undergo gazettement, because the element of the gazettement increases the timeline. And then, of course, we also have a requirement that certain licenses go through the board, and by law, the board is required to meet at least 4 times a year, once every quarter. So if we give a commitment, and once every quarter, it means once every 120 days. Isn't it? 4 months times 3 is 120. So if we give a commitment that is less than that, and the board decides no, the law says a minimum of one meeting per quarter, and then we are committed to issue licenses like within 60 days. We will not have met our service charter commitment. So that's how the 135 days is done. So what is happening now? We've been undertaking a review of Kenya Information and Communications Act. I think the process is on, and I think maybe it's still going on. I think it's still going on. And then the review of the regulations has also been going on. Hopefully by the end of the year, maybe some of this will be concluded. Again, like we said, our market structure is up for review, and like I said earlier, in the next few weeks or so, we'll be having a public consultation on the market structure, and we hope, of course, to receive inputs in terms of how to make changes. The other issue is that in the process of reviewing the market structure, one of the things that we're considering are the provisions in the ICT policy 2020, which has, brought some things, additional things that need to be considered for licenses, data centers being one of them. And arising from the discussions that we had today, I've just noticed that data centers have really evolved to the extent that initially when the data centers began, we were looking at just a building like this with power, with air conditioning, and then people bring in equipment, cables and everything. But now, I think we're talking about racks, we're talking about servers, we're talking about, even for others, maybe even pulling cables, communication cables into the data centers. So the data centers have really evolved, and I've quoted one of the speakers this morning, Hunger Scale. The Hunger Scale said data centers have become a home for IXPs. And they also said that data centers are infrastructure that manifests the cloud. So basically, data centers are becoming communication centers, so to speak. And that's why, for example, we'll be coming out to the public to ask how do we handle issues of data centers going forward. With a view, of course, to knowing how best we can deal with them based on what the ICT policy 2020 is also talking about. I've also noted that it's a peering point, right? So basically, data centers have become very important. And the other thing is also the cloud services. Those are some things that we will be asking you to tell us. How do we handle them in the regulatory space? Thank you very much, and I hope I've not spoken too much in the time.
Thank you so much. I think you can give him a round of applause once more. As he said, at times he has to be the parent in the room to make sure all of us children don't fight, keeps peace. I think you have 5 minutes, and we can bring this to a close very quickly. Is there any burning question that you think he should address before he leaves the room that can have answered here? Is there any? Looking at this side of the room, not exactly, or this one over there, and one here. So let's have those two before we bring this to a close. Right at the back.
My name is Barnaby from Epaka Networks. I believe my partner earlier mentioned how we run what I refer to as a concierge service for the smaller ISPs out there. So we're helping them on the technical side and to some extent on the business side. You mentioned, and I quote, millions, making millions. When you mentioned the community license, and unless I read the documentation wrong, I feel like it had been locked to non-commercial, non-profit organizations, and the whole idea behind the community license from the outcry from the Sambazas before was the cost was high, so it's a bit more to make money. So how does this work? I think we don't seem to understand fully how that community license works. It was about them being legitimized. They want to be legitimate, but the entry cost is so high for them.
Okay, I wanted to speak from here, but I think it's better I speak from this end. I think the concept of the community networks is, it's a network, and I think, was it Barak talked about it, it's a network by the people and for the people. I think we did this through very extensive public consultations when we were coming up with the community networks. And that is the concept that was sold and that was agreed on. And the reason was, when we are talking about network by the community and for the community, is that it's a network that's supposed to provide services at the local level. People who feel they've been left out by the big players in terms of they're not being considered for provision of the services. And so they want to come together and even provide these services for themselves. And we say, okay, how do we facilitate this without necessarily offending the existing regulatory framework or the market structure that is, as it were? Because like we say, as a father, when you have children, you have to make sure that these children will get food, each one of them, kama ni banana, kila mtu mmoja moja, but without creating a situation where there is a fight. And the reason we are saying that is because already we have, and I talked about the network facilities provided to I3. This is currently the smallest unit of infrastructure license, but within a county boundary. Now, trying to go further down and say that we create a Tier 4, we're just seeing that almost going to be a duplication. So we say, okay, if we are to create something else that's an additional to the Tier 3, without really offending the Tier 3 network, then we let's limit it to the community, and it becomes an uncommercial one, because what they need is not to make money, but to offer services to themselves. And that's why we say, okay, how do we do it? Do we also have a Tier 4 plus another service license? Then we say that will, sort of break the licenses, the market structure too much. And so we say, let's just give it a combined network and service license, but then not to offend the existing market structure. Let's say it is for the community by the community. And we therefore say that to make sure that it remains within that confines, then the requirement for licensing ought to be by a chief must indicate that this is a community-based organization, registered, and we know them. When you give us those requirements, then we give you the license. When we give you the license, then you can build the infrastructure at the local level, provide services for yourself, whether you're making money or not. It's not an issue. That's why we just charge you 5,000 shillings and not more. Just to legitimize the license we give it to you. And forget about the statement that we can do. I know it's hard to that was just a slip of the tongue. And so the way it's supposed to work is basically that you come up as a community and then come up with a vehicle which you register as a community-based organization, and then you come for the license. Of course, the requirements are there in terms of what do you need to supply to us so that you can give the license. I don't know whether that answers your question.
It does, but I'm going to say this is my opinion, personal, not even my mind. I think CA missed the mark on that because I'll talk about us personally when we started from zero. You hear the same thing being repeated everywhere, like everyone sitting there. Cost. So you're telling me I'm starting from zero. I'm paying for capacity that can be used. I'm paying for a license I don't know how to cover the cost within the next billing period.
Sorry, as my manga or as a community network?
No, as I'm talking about as anyone who wants to start getting into this business. Any startup. The cost assume that everyone is going to have a pocket that allows all those things into place. Putting a Tier 4, in my opinion, a very strong opinion, would be the best thing ever. You want to limit the Tier 3 to a county, perfect. Create a sub-county license. So even if you ask me maybe something more like a certain county and surrounding counties, we haven't mentioned that. You have sub-counties at the edge of the county who don't even get serviced by the county. They get their services from the next county. I'll give an example of Kiambaa County. It's the county bordering Kiambu and Nairobi on your way to Limuru. 90% of everyone there works in Nairobi. All the energy providers bring in their loops from Nairobi. Government services come from Thika, which you still have to go through Nairobi to go and acquire. But you see now this is saying I'm going to leave this to the sub-county. how does that work when the mast that they are getting capacity to is 100 meters into Nairobi? You see, like, so you put that tier 4 there, and you open, you make it so easy for people to start legitimately going out. I think when this conversation was being had initially, there was I think the figure that a lot of people are talking about being comfortable getting was 50,000. And the reason was they're talking about how credit platforms have all come up and now it's so simple to get 50,000. I don't have it. I can get it somewhere and start.
Right.
Just
So your proposal is that instead of a community network, we have a tier 4.
You have a tier 4, just as you say, all encompassing. They're like the community, but belongs to a sub-county and preferably surrounding, immediately surrounding sub-counties.
Okay, I'd like to help the regulator out with this. Well, it took us about a year trying to get a community license done. And from what you have explained about what you do, I actually see an opportunity where you can apply for the community license and you do qualify based on the way you explain your business model. The question is, whether you see what I'm seeing. And so to help us, because I've been told by the hotel we need to leave this room faster, so I'm also trying to balance that. But I would like to ask Damaris to kindly organize for us to have a session with our members who are startups, our non-members and industry players who are startups who have had challenges being able to fit into the community license regime. Let's have a conversation, then we will come back to you with a consolidated proposal that has considered several views on what we think should be the way forward. What is said in one of them. I know that there are many others in the room and many others that will come into the room. So I will ask Milka Damaris, kindly give us a date and a venue. Let us sit and talk just about the license for a startup. What should it be? Should it be a community network license or should it be a startup license, a different one? We are going to do that before they do the market structure changes. And tied to that, you'll allow me to just then invite everyone in the room again. On the 9th of October, we shall be presenting our baseline study. We'll get a consultant to do for us a market study because of all the feedback we're getting on the market structure. So we'll be presenting a baseline study on what the consultant found. In that document, we have not made any drastic conclusions. We want our members, industry to look at it and then now we conclude from there. What then should the regulators be thinking of when it comes to the ecosystem and the market structure that is actually in play? On the ground, things be different. And we must find a way of making sure that everybody contributing to the growth of this ecosystem is identifiable and recognized. Those are the two most important things. And that is why we come to the regulator to help us identify and recognize who the players are. Because also, wakati kutakuwa na pesa zinakuja, when you give to people who can be identified. If someone came to TESPOC and told TESPOC, we have grants, we want to give, these are the category, because we get that sometimes. These are the category of players we are looking for. Who are we going to? It is easy to go to people that can be identified and that can be registered. So let us have this conversation. So there are two things that I'm now giving to all those who attended today. 4th of October, we're meeting the county governments. Costs attached to way leaves. Sindio, if we can manage the way leaves, we've taken care of 80% of the cost. So 4th of October, we have a date, full day, like today. We talk about costs with the county governments representatives. 9th, we sit on our own to discuss now market structure and what it should be, having already had today's conversation and 4th of October conversation on infrastructure costs and the wages, and then 9th we now talk about the market structure. We'll be be more informed by the time we get to the 9th, right? So I'm banking on you, all of you, plus others who are here in the morning and have not yet come, to make a date with me on those days, and it will be full days. So that when we go, because what has helped us over the last 17 years I've been running TESPO, when we go to the government with a consolidated position, they listen. We had a long conversation before we settled on community networks as a license. And when we went, they did listen. But now when they produced what we had said, it's not aligning, it's not fitting. We're going back to the drawing table. There is never a final, there's nothing cast in stone. There's never final that cannot be changed. But it is up to us to come together with a consolidated position. So that then we're telling them, because I already told them this is not working. We want something else, not this one. But what is that something else? Can we be together and agree on something else?
Okay. Thank you for that, Fiona. There was one more question. We are hard pressed for time on that particular side. Our boss hijacked that particular moment. But please keep it very concise in question. And I believe it is to Crispin who will also give an equally concise answer as well as we bring it to a close. Jackie.
Thank you for that. My question is in regard to county license in terms of boundary definition in light of the growing metro city and metro towns. How do you define that?
Well, I think that's one of the challenges we've actually noticed with the Type 3 license. And it's one of the things we want to see how to address as we do the review. Yes, I think I want to leave it at that because of time also.
Okay.
Yes.
Well put, well played. But also, as Fiona says, that's going to be a very important discussion on the 4th of October as we look into those very issues in terms of how to deal with things, county and sub-county as well. So clearly some conversations picked up next month on the 4th of October for that to happen. As we bring this to a close, I am to call Fiona Songa to bring this forum officially to a close. So Fiona, the stage is yours. We do it from there, you come up here.
Just do it from here. How many have benefited from what we've done today? So we should do it again. How many think we should do it again? Okay, I'm seeing double hands. Yes, definitely. So I'm going to appeal to all of you. Each one of you has potential to be a partner for these meetings. What we collect for subscription is not enough for us to foot an event full day like this and make sure that you have all been taken care of. Anyone who did not get tea, food, lunch, because if you didn't, I'd better return to your subscription. So it takes you working with us to have an event like this. And it helps even when you propose. You can tell me, Fiona, we want to discuss this, like not what you've tabled. I'm saying yes, but it's not only you, there are many people, so we can have another event like this. But so we come together, we put money in a kitty, and then we have these conversations and see how they turn our ecosystem around. It is teamwork, it is collaboration. TESPOC never achieves anything on its own. We never have, and we never will. That is the reality, core ground. That is what it is. Forget the hype that goes on social media or TESPOC, this gets that is what social media does, makes things hype and hypes them up quite a bit. But the truth of the matter is you are the ones who make TESPOC. You are the ones who make us have these sessions. You are the partners that we have to do this with. So if you feel you are able to partner with us on any of our meetings, there's so many things that have been talked about, beers for peers with Work Online, beers for peers with ADC. It's not just beer we drink. You know, one time, the last beers for peers, an engineer asked me, do you only offer as alcohol? Today I've not offered alcohol. So I'm not a levy girl of just alcohol, and you know, we also sit and have serious conversations. And yes, we can have discussions without alcohol like today. So we are open to different forms of engagements because what they do for you is they help you network and grow your business. They also let people know that even if you're a small player, they know you exist. And someone somewhere, a big player, will want to serve a customer in what the area you are in, and then look for you. They've heard you talk, they've seen you on a panel, you have engaged in the corridors. can we have you collaborating more with us? And for those who feel that they want to be able to participate or collaborate in any of the upcoming events, Damaris is the lady to talk to. She's in charge of all of our events, and if you can't reach her, Milka, who you all know, is also going to be available, myself. Let us know what you want us to discuss, what you want us to do together, and we'll be happy to do so. And I just want to tell you all, thank you so much for sitting through the day with us, and let us just appreciate ourselves for having made it to the end of the day. And I just want to appreciate you and to say thank you in a very unique style. You're going to get a goodie bag as you leave. So we've got a setup outside at the door where we set up something small to just say thank you for staying with us and spending the day with us. It makes us feel appreciated. Asanteni sana. Thank you, Jeff, for being with us as well. And I just want to appreciate Jeff in a special way, because when we called him so last minute and we're like, hey Jeff, we need an MC. He put everything else down and said, I will be there. Thank you for being there for us and for committing at least to be with us for the next couple of events, so that then you are building this story with us. And one day some journalists will ask you, how did that thing go down? You are a witness. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Fiona. A round of applause for her as well. And a round of applause for yourselves as you're taking it throughout the day, from the morning, all the sessions, the interaction as well, coming to an end of what has been clearly a day full of insights. And of course, as you've said, some issues we pick up next month and engage from that particular front. But I do believe Test Box doors and communications channels always open for any feedback on how we can work better towards the futures that we want. We bring this to a close at this particular point. As was said, my name is Jeff Morton. I have been your MC the entire day. It has been an absolute pleasure. We meet on October the 4th. We meet on October the 4th. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.